What happens to Surya after this? He looks now at himself and he says, oh, this looks pretty cool. And now he says, where is my wife, my Dharmakanta? I want to go and see her. So he goes, where does he go? At that time it was not Assam, Kamagiri. He goes to Kamagiri and he sees that she is in the form of a mare. So he becomes a horse. When he becomes a horse over there, he goes and meets her, but she does not recognize him. Because she has been only focusing on that one Vapuhu, on that one form of him coming as Aditya Narayana. Now when he came in this form, she didn't recognize him, but she looked at him. And when she looked at him and he came in close contact with her, both their nostrils met, because horses have protruding noses. And when their nostrils met, as a result of this union, 2 baby horses were born to them. Their names are Nyasta and Dasra. Together they are called as the Ashwini Kumaras. What is amazing about this is, Nyasta means diagnosis, Dasra means cure. All the physicians in this world today are following precisely that. What the Ashwini Kumaras set into being, what they set in motion. They are together the divine physicians. Why I said there was another sankalpam behind this date being chosen is today's Ashwini Nakshatram, which is governed by the Ashwini Kumaras, and today their Katha also came. Yama came today on Shanivaram, Shani came on Shanivaram, and Ashwini Kumaras came, and it is on the longest day in the year, which is dedicated to Surya Narayana. So there is nothing but Divya Sankalpam and Surya Sankalpam in us gathering here today. So now, these 2 beings and another being also comes out of Sangnya's mouth, because she looks at this being and when she opens her mouth to say, who are you? First, these Ashwini Kumaras come out. Then comes another being who is riding a horse. His name is Revanta. Now, Revanta is a god that protects horses in particular. Nakula and Sahadeva make a mention of him in the Mahabharata. Currently, the worship of Revanta is not seen too much. But what we do know historically is that there are several figures of Revanta available where you see descriptions of him somewhat similar to Kalki, not similar perhaps in Tattvam, but in iconography. For those of you history buffs over here, I'm just mentioning this in the interest of that you can go and check out a little bit more about Revanta. So these beings are now born, and Surya speaks to Sangnya and he says, I've learnt about what happened. Come back with me to Surya Loka. So Sangnya goes back with him. Chaya also repents for what she has done. And Surya or Aditya stays back there with Chaya, Sangnya, and who else? Probably the children, because there were so many who remembers them. But the interesting thing is, this is where the astrological dynamics start. For those interested in the concept of Jyotish Shastra, how do you see Surya? Here is where the tussle begins between father and son. Shani was upset about what happened because he felt he did not know for the longest time that his mother was Chaya. He thought it was Sangnya. When he found out that his mother was a clone of somebody else, he felt cheated. So he leaves. And that is why there is some strife astrologically between these 2 grahas. I know when I said astrology, everybody sat up thinking we are doing Jatakam reading, but we are not. Because these are subjects that require that level of expertise which I cannot claim to have, and also require a mature understanding of what these grahas stand for. When there is that kind of a strife in that Jatakam, the father, Surya Narayana, will shed light on how that can be managed. All we need to do, if there is such a thing in our Jatakam, we just need to pray that may he find us that balance that we need. But essentially, does Surya Katha end here? Because this is Surya's Kutumbam. This is Surya's family. And in this, what you will see is the different ways in which Surya was looked at. Surya was looked at Kanti Swarupa, the source of light. He was looked at as Omkara. He was looked at as brightness that was beyond the world's capacity to take. All of this was Surya. Arogyam did not come into the picture just yet. So this is when Surya Katha actually begins. Because when we look at Surya, what are the ways in which we are seeing him? One way is Pratyaksha Devam. That form of Paramatma that we can see. But when we extend that, what you see is, what we are looking at is not just Surya as one glowing ball of fire, but Surya as the gateway to the remaining Devatas. And this becomes a very, very nuanced concept to understand. Because here, Surya has a Katha. But beyond the Katha, what is Surya's role? What is our connection with Surya? To understand this, we will take a little bit of help from the process of Yajna. What happens in a Yajna? We offer something into Agni Devata. Agni Devata takes the essence of that. If you offer a Modaka into the fire, the Modaka will burn. But Agni will take the essence of that Modaka, and when you are offering that Modaka, you will say, this is for Ganesha, this is not mine. Idam na mama. And then Agni will take that and he will give it to Ganapati. How does he give it to Ganapati? He goes through a gateway, a portal. That portal is called as the Aditya Mandalam. Through that Aditya Mandalam alone do offerings reach any form of Paramatma. If we have to give something to anyone, it has to go through Aditya Mandalam. That is your immigration office. Nothing crosses that without getting stamped there. Aditya, Agni. Any connection? Sorry? The brightness. What else? Fire. The concept of worshipping Agni has come from Aditya. That Agni we cannot go close to. So we recreate that Agni over here. And this Agni, we connect to that Agni. It is simply like lighting one lamp from another lamp. And when we do that, when we connect these two Agnis, all we are saying is the rest of the process is entirely in your hands. And that Surya Mandalam, which we are calling as the gateway to any form of Paramatma, has been worshipped in so much detail. Because for us, Surya is just standing on a chariot. We will come to that description in some time. But Surya has something called the Mandala. Mandala, you can call it as orb, you can call it as realm. But the Mandala is an expanse around Surya. And when you do Dhyanam of Surya, when Surya is rising in front of you, Surya is the easiest Devata to do Dhyanam of because he appears in front of our eyes every day. When you do Dhyanam of Surya, what comes before Surya comes? Alarm clock. Then? Hopefully alarm clock. What else comes before Surya comes? Light. Light comes from where? The rays. The rays come before Surya comes. The rays of light. Even at dawn, it is first the light that comes and then he comes. All the space encompassed by those rays is called as Surya Mandala. In Bhavishyottara Purana, Krishna does a stuti. He tells Arjuna, this Surya Mandala, Yan Mandalam Deeptikaram Vishalam Ratnaprabham Tivra Manadi Rupam Daridra Dukkha Kshayakaranam Cha Punatumam Tatsavitur Varenyam. Tatsavitur Varenyam. Sounding familiar, no? Phone ringtone, no? This Mandalam, all the space encompassed by these rays, is the source of the most pristine knowledge in these worlds. O Arjuna, bow down to this. In Bhavishyottara Puranam, this conversation between Krishna and Arjuna about Surya and Surya's Mandala runs for 7 chapters and is called Aditya Hridayam. That is not the Aditya Hridayam tomorrow that we are going to be speaking about. But that theme has come recurring across because everybody has spent time giving us this wisdom of what is this Aditya Mandalam, what is the heart of this Aditya. So this Aditya becomes our gateway to go to the gods. Why? Because Aditya is responsible for 2 things that we have in samsara, which we need at any given point of time. Keep aside our religious beliefs or the lack thereof. We all need 2 coordinates to function. What are those 2 coordinates? Space and time. If we don't know where we are and we don't know what time it is, literally or metaphorically, we'll be in trouble. We can be disoriented if we don't know where a space is. How do you determine space and directions? Light. Directions come into being because of one direction from where all of this starts, Which is the direction? East. From east you establish anything else. We need not discuss this in great detail. How does Surya help us recognize time? The position of the sun, absolutely. Shadow, the shadow is connected to the sun, and essentially the formation of a day also comes from here. That Suryodayam till Suryodayam, till the next day Suryodayam is counted as one. You will have variations of this theme, but essentially it is Surya who is setting the context. Divakara means exactly this. But there is a very interesting connection on how Surya helps us keep time and space in this massive cosmos. But only if somebody is the keeper of time and space do they have the authority to transcend time and space. When Surya goes into this gateway, or rather when our offerings go through this gateway of Surya Loka, they have to go beyond our time and space to reach the Devatas. When that happens, only some person who is capable of being here and going above can transfer those offerings. For that, we have to understand this Purusha and his nature. So, essentially, the world outside, we keep time using Surya. Suppose it is darkness outside. How would we keep time? Without a clock. We don't have, assume there is no device. How do you keep time? Intensity of darkness. Okay, imagine you're in a closed space. How do you keep time? To know that certain amount of time has passed. Direction, but you can't see because you're inside. How would you keep time? If I were to tell you 1 hour from now, we will conclude this talk. How would you recognize when that 1 hour finishes? Would you be able to keep the heartbeat? Would the heartbeat be the easiest thing to take? Here's a clue. Look around. Look around. This is your biggest indicator of time. Blinking. There are eye doctors in the audience. They will vouch for this better than me. The easiest and the most natural way that the human body is keeping count, that is keeping time, is this. And the twinkling of an eye is called in Sanskritam as Nimesha. From there comes the words Nimisha. Nimesha. So, this is 1 Nimesha. So, here's some interesting mathematics. This is 1 Nimesha. 15 such Nimeshas make 1 Kashta. These are different units of time. How many Nimeshas make 1 Kashta? Everybody is awake. Good. So there are no eyes that are like this. They are all in very actively twinkling. Okay. 15 Nimeshas make 1 Kashta. 30 such Kashtas make 1 Kala. 30 such Kalas make 1 Muhurta. 1 Muhurta is exactly 48 minutes. Muhurta Kalam means 48 minutes. And 30 such Muhurtas of 48 minutes each will make 1 day, comprising of day and night. I know all of you are hurriedly doing the maths. Some of you are confusedly looking at me wondering, but this translation is from Vishnu Dharmottara Purana and it's not my mathematics. If it was mine, I would not have the sahasam to share it. Now, 30 such muhurtas, which comprise of 1 day, from sunrise till the next day sunrise, let's say, 15 such days make 1 paksha. 2 such pakshas make 1 masa. 6 such masas make 1 ayana. 2 such ayanas, Dakshinayana and Uttarayana, make 1 Dakshinayana and Uttarayana make 1 Samvatsara. Now let's do a little bit of math around this. We said How many masas make an ayana? 6 masas. So totally, in one samvatsara, how many? In 12 masas, what changes? I can only hear seasons change. What is responsible for seasons changing? Position of the sun. So the sun is changing 12 times? Only 2 times? Is the sun different in every month? Yes, no. It's good to think about it. The sun is moving between one Shukla Paksham to the next Shukla Paksham. The sun is moving. Between one entire month, the sun is moving. Or the position of the sun is changing. I'm not getting into a debate of is the sun actually moving or not. I'm saying, are we feeling that the sun is hitting differently? You just think from a normal perspective, how are you feeling about it? In June, it feels different from December. Don't use Bangalore weather as your reference for this. Something is different in that intensity, no? So there are 12 different intense forms, 12 varying degrees of intensity. Now you understand why we said Dwadash Adityas in the beginning? Why 12 forms came? Together those 12 forms rule as Kala Purusha. Those 12 forms together are ruled by one form. That's why we said the essence of them is there in one. But it splits into 12 parts because the Purana Katha is trying to tell you, look at the element of time. The element of time, which is so vast in the Samvatsara, is governed by 12 forms. But go backward. This Samvatsara, which is made up of 2 ayanas, which is made up of 6 masas each masa being made up of 2 pakshas, each paksha being made up respectively of divas, being then respectively made up of muhurtas, of kalas, of kashtas, goes back to what is your primordial nimesha. And in the human body, Surya rules this element of the eye. Microcosm, macrocosm. Surya me chakshushritaha. Surya is seated in the eyes. This explains why one of the biggest impetuses to speak on Aditya Hridayam and Surya Katha came from an eye doctor here, whose name incidentally is also Savita. There is a beautiful connection of how the divine drives things with connections that we could not even conceive in our thought. It just comes like that. Look at the way that when we say Surya rules this element, essentially what it means is time is being governed by Surya. Time is also called as Kala or Yama. Yama is his son. What do we mean by son and father? Puranic terminology. Something comes from somebody, it is called as their child. Something is inseparable from somebody, they are called as husband and wife. As simple as that. So here when you say Shani is coming from him, there's a very beautiful significance of this. Tomorrow we will take this up in detail. But when you say Yama is coming from him, it means Kala Shakti is coming from him. Each of us is recognized by Kala based on how much Kala we have. Our Kala is measured on 2 things, breath and Suryodayas. That is why if you read older stories, they will say this person is not going to live beyond tomorrow's Suryodaya. Surya becomes the frame for each of this. So all of this is connected to Surya. This is one aspect of Surya's, the kind of wisdom that radiates from Surya. The kind of knowledge he has of this entire system. But the question still remains, how does he take these offerings that we put into Agni? We have recreated a bonsai version of Surya's Agni here in our Kunda. No matter how big our Kunda is, it cannot match that Agni. But what is the process? If we understand this process of Yajna, we will not look at it simply as a fire sacrifice. There is a wisdom to this, of how you place something here and then tell Agni. Agni is Surya Swarupa. There is no difference between the two. You tell Agni, please take this and through Surya Mandala, give this to the Devatas. How does he do that? For this, we need a little bit of help from science again. Essentially, Surya, the brightest star in the universe, sheds his light on everything. Nothing has light of its own in this galaxy except him. He is alone Swabha. He is the only one that is glowing with his own light. We are all glowing in reflected light. All planetary beings. Now when his light falls on one particular luminous being, that luminous being, we can't take Surya's light directly. Brahma could not take it, Aditi could not take it, the Devatas could not take it. We definitely cannot take it. We cannot. Surya is beautiful to look at for a few moments. After that, necessarily you will have to shield your eyes. But that's not the case with another being. This other being you can stare at the whole night. You can write romantic songs also. Who is that? Absolutely, the moon, Chandra. Chandra has his own light. It is entirely reflected from the sun. But it changes every day. It changes because the shadow of the earth is falling. So the light is going from Surya to Chandra, and the shadow of the earth is changing every day on the way it's falling on Chandra. And based on that, there are 15 variations in Chandra. So there is one day when Surya gives all of his light to Chandra. It's falling fully with zero shadow on Chandra. And that day something very magical happens. That day, Chandra receives that light. And when Chandra is receiving that light, he passes on not just that light, but that light becomes Amritam. It becomes Rasam, not the Saru Rasam. It becomes Rasa Swarupa. It becomes elixir or Sudha, and it passes on to all beings, not just to us here. So there is a very interesting idea around this. Which day is that, by the way? Paurnami. So once Chandra is glowing like this, it is as if all of this, let's say, currency has been transferred to Chandra, and then one by one people go to withdraw from him. When people go to withdraw from him, eventually the account becomes empty. So the first person, so from Paurnami, for the next 15 days, one by one Devata will go. This is parallelly happening in Devaloka. Each of us is receiving it over here in a certain way. But in the Devalokas, what happens is one Devata Shakti goes and takes that Amritam from Chandra, and that Amritam is the Devata's Aharam. So the first Devata who goes and takes it from Chandra is Agni. He takes it on the first day after Paurnami. The next Devata who goes and takes it from Chandra is Ravi himself. Surya himself goes and takes on the second day, Dvitiya. The third Devata who goes is Vishwadevas. We will speak about, Vishvedevas. We will speak about Vishvedevas in detail tomorrow. This is on the third day. Third day is called as Tritiya. On the fourth day, Prajapati goes and takes Amritam from Chandra. On the fifth day, Varuna goes. On the sixth day, Indra goes. On the seventh day, Rishis go. On the eighth day, the Ashtavasus go. On the ninth day, Yama goes. On the 10th day, Marut Ganas go. On the 11th day, today, it would be because tonight is Ekadashi, Rudra goes. On the 12th day, Vishnu goes. On the 13th day, Kubera goes. On the 14th day, Pashupati goes. And on the 15th day, Pitru Devatas go. Oh, really? I don't know. Chandra has been depleted from full. He has been given 16 portions of that Amritam, 16 digits of that Amritam. All those have been cut. Where does he go? What does he do? On that day, Chandra dissolves himself into plants. This is where it gets very interesting. He dissolves himself into all plants, all greenery that's around. And that day, when Surya is shining on the earth, the kirana of Surya, which is falling most prominently on the earth, believe me or not, Shastra has named every kind of kirana that falls on the earth from Surya. With precision beyond our interpretation, the different kinds of Surya kiranas that fall on the earth have been named. On the 15th day after all the stock of Amritam has been eaten by the Devatas and the Rishis and the Pitru Devatas, when Chandra goes and dissolves himself into all the greenery around, that day there are rays of light falling from the sun onto the earth. Those rays are called as Ama Kiranas, and Chandra resides in those Kiranas, so that day is called as Amavasyam, because he stays over there. This much of Vijnanam is hidden in a name. For us, Amavasya means, in travel, please, Pannakodadu. But no, we don't even recognize what is the larger system around this. Now, the entire currency has been depleted. So what happens? The process of yajna comes in here. Through yajna, what we do is, why did we stop on that detail of the devatas of Chandra being dissolved in the plants? What happens to the plants? Who eats the plants? Predominantly cattle. Cattle eat those very plants in which Chandra is dissolved. Chandra, who had that Sudha inside him, and then that Sudha is again entering the systems of cattle. Cattle then give out milk. That milk is converted into ghee. That ghee is offered back to the devatas, and that ghee again gives them amritopaharam. That amritopaharam is what Surya then transfers again to Chandra, and then the entire cycle is maintained. This is the process of yajnam, and this is what rishis designed it with. That when we feed a devata, we are feeding them what they are giving us. It is their energy transfer that has landed here. We are simply saying, idam suryaya idam namama. This is not mine, I'm passing it on to you. And the systems in nature, what an elaborate story to tell us how there is a balance in nature between Surya and Chandra. And the first Adhanika Grantham, the first Grantham to mention this, the first civilization to mention this, way before our Western counterparts even recognized whether Earth is round, square, flat, rectangle. Here we are saying Chandra has absolutely no light of its own, it belongs to Surya, and saying that the Earth is not the center of the universe, Surya Mandalam is the center of the universe. That is the Vijnanam that we belong to. To lose that in sight of saying, yeah, just a ball of glowing fire, is an injustice done to the millions of years of tapas of people who came before us. The next time we look at Surya and say, oh, you alone are responsible for all of this cycle to be maintained, then we recognize that Chandra is connected to this Surya. That is why you'll see beautiful shlokas that say, Surya is like the father, Chandra is the mother. The reason, the father transfers the seed to the mother, and through the mother, life comes. Surya transfers his kiranas to Chandra, and through Chandra, there is poshana and there is aushadhis that come into being, which nourish us, which we can directly receive. So this much is hidden in that singular idea. When you recognize this, you recognize for Surya to do this, there must be extraordinary wisdom in him. He's not just burning. He's ensuring that there is a process that is happening over here. This process has to happen in rhythmic sequence. Nothing can go wrong in this process. 1 second here and there, if Surya moves 1 degree closer, all of us will be gone. If he moves 1 degree further, we'll be gone. If we move 1 degree, all of this balance that is being maintained with precision. That precision comes with knowledge. That knowledge of how to run the universe. That knowledge Surya has, and one very beautiful katha from the Ramayana mentions this, which many of you must be knowing, but it explores this angle very powerfully. This story comes at a time when a little boy sees Surya. And when he sees Surya, he wants to jump, as his name brings smiles to faces. And when you're smiling, Amshuman is sitting here. So, who is this little boy? Hanuman. Now, this is when we are quick to dismiss the story. Hanuman saw Surya, he thought it was an apple or he thought it was a red fruit, so he jumped. So childish. It is childish for him to think that it is a fruit. But is it childishly possible for him to reach Surya if it is just a story? The idea that is being communicated is very powerful. The idea is that he recognized the divinity of something and he went to explore it. When he went to explore it, cut a long story short, he struck with Indra's Vajrayudha and he falls. When he's falling, his father, who is his father? Vayudeva sees what's happening, and in Uttarakhanda and Ramayana the story comes where it says, Vayu Prakopat Bhutani, that all the Bhutas must suffer, Vayu says, because you hit my child and have made my child unconscious, I will take away pranam from all of you. And when pranam leaves, everybody is suffocated. So one by one, the devatas go and beg Vayu, saying, please bring pranam back. And he says, I will only do that on one condition. Each of you give your Shakti to my child for what you have done to him. So Indra says, Each one comes and gives a blessing. One says, he will not have any fear of any ayudham attacking him. No astram will be able to capture him. One by one, there are different versions, different devatas who come and give a blessing to him that make him someone who is invincible. There is one devata who decides what is it that he can offer him, and he says, when he comes of age, I will teach him all the knowledge that I have. That devata is Surya. When Surya says this, Vayudeva remembers this. When Hanuman comes of age to be sent to the Gurukulam, he sends him. He sends Hanuman. Vayudeva sends Hanuman saying, go to Surya now and ask him to teach you Veda Vidya. Surya, Veda Vidya, what is the connection? Go back, link it back to the story of Brahmadeva. Omkara manifested in front of him. From that Omkara, Shabdas came. That Surya Mandala is radiating with sound. If you do dhyanam of Surya with Veda mantras coming from that Surya Mandalam, because it actually happens over there. Tomorrow we will see how that knowledge automatically reaches the seeker. So Hanuman goes to Surya and Surya looks at him and he says, ನನಗೆ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಟೈಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಬೆಳಗ್ಗಿಂದ ಸಂಜೆ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಬಿಸಿ, ಈ ಕಡೆ ಆ ಕಡೆ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು ಪುನಃ. ಅಗೇನ್ ಫಾರ್ ಮೀ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಟು ಸಂಜೆ ಓನ್ಲಿ. ನನಗೆ ಟೈಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಕಣೋ, ನಿನ್ಗೇನು ಕೊಡೋದು? ಹೌ ಐಲ್ ಗಿವ್ ಯು ಟೈಮ್? ಸೊ ಹನುಮಾನ್ ಸೆಸ್, ಓಕೆ, ಯು ಆರ್ ಮೂವಿಂಗ್ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟೆಂಟ್ಲಿ. Surya appears to be moving. So I do not want to stop your movement. I cannot stop your movement. What I will do is, I will follow your movement. And as I am following your movement, you teach me. This is Hanuman's charitram also. This is Hanuman's strength of character. He did not directly go back to Vayudeva and say, sorry pops, I asked him but he said no. Can I learn on Coursera? This attitude of a seeker. A seeker is the one who wants. The Guru will also check what is your readiness level. How much are you ready to imbibe? How much do you want it? If you truly want it, you will come back and you will find a way of making it happen. So he goes back and he says, he doesn't even go back, he's remaining there only. And he says, I will follow your movement. And Surya teaches him all of the Veda Vidya. What does this mean about following Surya? Does it mean that the Surya Ratham is moving in Akasham and Hanuman is tailing it? Here is the Rahasyam. It is following the movement of the sun, which means from the time the sun rises to the time the sun sets, Hanuman immerses himself in studying. That he uses that entire column to study everything around him, to study nature, because nature is the greatest teacher, not textbooks. Observing how every being is dependent on Surya. Observing that Surya which is brightening the worlds outside is also here inside. This is called Antaraditya-upasana. And Hanuman notices how this Shakti is filling the world. And eventually Hanuman is filled with that knowledge that Surya had to give him. So Surya has completed his portion of the promise, which was that he will give him Veda Vidya. Now a very interesting thing happens after this, which is where many of us become a little shaky about when we hear this portion. Hanuman is a brahmachari, no? Correct only, no? But after Hanuman completes his Veda Vidya from Surya, Hanuman marries Surya's daughter. Huh? Everybody is awake. Good. Hanuman, when he completes his Veda Vidya, Surya is so impressed by Hanuman that he says, I have a daughter by name Suvachala. Suvachala will be given to you in marriage, O Anjaneya. And Suvachala and Anjaneya Swami's Kalyanam happens till date on Jyeshtha Shuddha Dashami. In Jyeshtha Masam, which we are in right now, the Shuddha Dashami. We are in the Bahula Paksham, in the Krishna Paksham, but Jyeshtha Shuddha Dashami is celebrated as Hanumat Suvachala Kalyanam. But this is little unsettling, no? We thought Naishtika Brahmachari, Nitya Brahmachari, because we have translated these words, Brahmachari equals bachelor. Brahmachari, what a powerful word. It means somebody who remains dissolved in Brahman. Somebody who is constantly merged and thinking only of Parabrahma is called a Brahmachari. That is why we have a term called Gruhastha Brahmachari also. Somebody who is doing grihasthashramam, but their thoughts are always connected to Parabrahma. So just by virtue of not marrying, one is not a brahmachari. So, Hanuman's celibateness is not in question here. Brahmachari means somebody who is eternally connected to Parabrahma. Hanuman sees that Parabrahma in front of him as Rama. Surya, from who he learnt, but the essence of that manifested in front of him as Rama. So what does it mean that Surya's daughter married Hanuman then? Look at her name. What is her name? Suvarchala. Varchas means energy. Varchas means light. Varchas means glow. The light that comes from learning, the light that comes from knowledge that has been internalized in the heart, not when we think about it, but when we feel it, that makes us glow in a good way. Good in Sanskritam is Su. Varchas is here portrayed as feminine, and that came from Surya Upasana. That is why Surya's Putri she is, and Hanuman became inseparable from that Varchas. So it is Suvarchala Sameta Anjaneya Swami. So that Suvarchala, that goddess, is an extension of his own Vidya that Surya passed on to him, which he radiates. That is why we say Buddhir Balam. The first thing you get from Hanuman is the same thing you get from Surya if you do a Namaskaram. Buddhi. Connections. The world of connections is waiting to open. Surya is Jnana Devata. That is exactly the concept of worshipping him thrice a day when that Jnanam can be felt. Surya rises, or rather we rise at Ushakala. Usha. What does this word mean? Today and tomorrow we will just be unpacking words that are so common, but if we sit down with them, we'd be fascinated to know, oh my God, is this how this concept of Surya has been taken? What does Usha mean? Dawn. Usha comes from the dhatus. The root words of Usha mean to burn. Surya burns. That we all agree? But this is a little contradictory if you think about it. If you tell me that Surya burns at midday, I will agree. But at dawn, is he really burning anybody? The kiranas that come from Surya at dawn have the power to burn away papa and ajnanam. Those kiranas are called as Usha Shakti. That is why they asked us to be awake before that kalam, to receive him, and for those kiranas to work within us. That is why in one version of Surya Narayana Murti, you will see that he has three wives. Usha, Chaya, Padmini. In one version that we saw, it is Sangnya and Chaya. In another version, especially towards Andhra and Telangana, it is Usha, Chaya and Padmini. Which means wherever Surya goes, Usha Devi will follow. Wherever Surya is going, dawn will come. And that Usha Shakti burns the darkness inside. That is why they said, be awake at that time, because those kiranas are powerful. They can burn what we ourselves cannot. That is why they said, do sadhana at that kalam. So that Usha Shakti is a metaphor for Surya's radiance. One more wife came here, Padmini. Who is this? It's not an actress, not a dancer. Every time some new woman, and then somebody will write a book saying, oh yes, it's about having multiple wives but not multiple husbands. And we turn this entirely, we've lost the plot because we're not focusing on what's being said. Padmini. What is Padma? Lotus. When does a lotus bloom? Night? Morning. A lotus closes at dusk and blooms at dawn. When Surya comes, the lotus blooms. There's a yogic understanding of this. When there is a glow of that Surya, the lotus, the 6 lotuses in the body from the Mooladhara Chakram onwards, all of those start to bloom. Padmini is a Shakti of Surya. Inseparable force equals Bharya. That Shakti of his which causes the Padmas in the body and the Padmas to open and to receive that light and that knowledge, that Shakti of his is called Padmini. That is why he is called Padma Mitra also. Abja Mitra. He is a friend to the lotus. And Chandra is called as Abja Shatru. He is called as the enemy to the lotus because they will not coincide together. But that has a different meaning in some senses. But here, when Surya with Usha, Chaya and Padmini come, essentially it is saying the source of all wisdom in the universe has come to burn away your negativity, to burn away your papa karma, and to bloom in the heart of your body. He's just waiting for you to recognize that. That is why there is a very beautiful story of one rishi called Vaishampayana. We all know Vaishampayana because of Vishnu Sahasranama. Vaishampayana, his sister's son, was also his student in the Gurukulam. And one day, all of the rishis in that particular Gurukulam decided that they will meet at a certain time. However, Vaishampayana could not go because that day was his father's Shraddham. So he recognized that it was exactly at the time. Again, time also connects to Surya in a different way. Shraddham is to be done at midday. When Surya is exactly at zenith, that is the time Shraddhas have to be done. So he recognized that their time is exactly when he will be busy with this. So he did not go. But they made a rule saying if somebody does not come to this particular meeting, they will earn Brahmahatya Patakam. So he said, he's aware of this, but he said, I have to perform Shraddham. That is my first dharma. We'll deal with this later. So the next day when he meets all the rishis, he tells them that, look, I did not come because I had to follow my Swadharma. But Brahmahatya Patakam has also been earned by me. The dosham of killing a Brahmavekta, somebody who is connected to Parabrahma. Now, since you all caused and wanted this meeting to happen, you all take on a portion of that dosham, you do tapas and you rid yourselves of it, then it will be balanced. So I will transfer it from me to all of you over here. One student got up and said, the rest of them cannot do this. I'm telling you, it's too much for them to do this much of tapas. They have to do so much tapas because of something that you were unable to avoid. I will take it on everybody's behalf. So Vaishampayana said, this is his sister's son. So Vaishampayana told him, you cannot do this alone. Don't take it upon yourself. But this being insisted, and he said, I can do it. Vaishampayana got angry and he said, what kind of arrogance do you have that you think you can take on so much? I curse you that all the Veda Vidya that you have learned sitting here in my ashramam, all that Veda Vidya will leave you in this instant. And in one instant, from his nephew's mouth, all that Veda Vidya just came out. Because he practically vomited it out. By virtue of it just leaving him, because when a guru gives that kind of a shapam, it works immediately. By virtue of it leaving him, it came out in a dark color because it was leaving his body. And all the other rishis, they became birds. They became titri birds. And they quickly ate all of that Veda Vidya that came out from him. They ate that as titri birds, and together, after they ate it, they wrote it down together as the Taittiriya Upanishad. Now this being from whom all of this came out, because it came out in a vomited fashion, it became dark in color, and this portion that came out and left his being forever is called as the Krishna Yajurveda. Because it is dark, it is called as Krishna. Krishna referring to the color dark, or the shade being dark. And now, this is the story. What of this boy? This boy's name is Yajnavalkya. Yajnavalkya was so distressed about what happened. Because he said, I did it in the interest of all of them not taking on that curse on themselves and that tapas. But for whatever reasons, it has been interpreted differently. And now, I have to be able to find myself a guru from where all of that knowledge can come back to me. So Yajnavalkya did what occurred to him as the one right thing to do. He did tapas to Surya. When he did that tapas to Surya, after a long time, one version says Yajnavalkya did tapas to Saraswati and Saraswati told him go to Surya. And this is all highlighting that Surya is Jnana Swarupa. When he did that tapas to Saraswati and then to Surya, Surya blessed him with a very special kind of knowledge that Yajnavalkya wrote down. Together, that portion that Yajnavalkya wrote down today is known as the Shukla Yajurveda. Further, the Yajnavalkya Smriti and other portions of that, that branch of the Veda is extremely rare. Most people who do Veda Parayanam and are in different shakhas, typically it is Krishna Yajurveda, but very few are in this line. The essence of the story is about the power of Surya. That it gives the grace to somebody from whom everything is gone to be able to come back and receive that. Surya's grace can be showered from Surya at moments when we least expect it, but we most need it. And one such moment happened in the Ramayana also. When Narayana, Sakshat Narayana, came down as Purna Swarupa of Rama, complete manifestation of the divine, no doubt in it, such a Rama is on the battlefield, striking arrow after arrow at Ravana, and it is at that moment that he feels tired. When he feels that tiredness, he loses spirit. He becomes dejected. And in a moment of battle, dejection can be very disastrous to the result, because you have to act in that moment. And when he was feeling that sense of dejection, some grace from above came. Why did that grace come in that moment? Why did Rama, how did Rama, who is the complete manifestation of Parabrahma, how does Rama feel dejection? And what does that grace result in? Why is it that Rama needed the blessings of one form of Paramatma to be able to win this war with Ravana? This is the question that gets answered tomorrow. We all know in some senses the overall superficial story connected to this. Agastya came, Agastya read the Aditya Hridayam and went. What is so powerful in that Aditya Hridayam? The heart of Aditya, that chanting it gave Rama something spectacular. Learning this is not through Google, it's not through listening, it is simply through internalizing. That is why we said today and tomorrow we will listen to this Aditya Hridayam as many times as we can. We will do it again once now before we leave. It is also Sandhya Kalam outside. As Surya is setting, we will listen to Aditya Hridayam once, chant along if we are able to, and then come back tomorrow to know what brought this portion of the Ramayana to be one of the most powerful and the most Kilaka Amshas. If we can unlock this portion, not only Ramayana, but our lives' true imports and purposes can be understood from this one portion. So with that, can I invite all of us to chant the Aditya Hridayam? Precisely as the situation describes it. Tato yuddha parishrantam samare chintaya sthitam. In a state of worry, Ravanam jagrato drushtva yuddhaya samapasthitam. And seeing Rama worried, everybody was dependent on Rama. The devatas, devataishcha samagamya, drashtum abhyagatoranam, upagamya pravidramam, agastyo bhagavan rishihi. Agastya came from the Gagana Mandalam along with devatas. And he came down and told Rama something special. Let's see what he told Rama. Tomorrow we'll understand why he told Rama that. So can we invite all of you to join us to chant this with all the understanding of Surya that so far you have inculcated. And tomorrow more of that will come as his blessings. But between today to tomorrow, at least once, if we can, beyond this, read that Aditya Hridayam with that understanding that, oh, Surya is more than what I thought Surya was. If something has shifted in your perception, your sadhana is happening here and will continue beyond. With that, we will offer Aditya Hridayam at Chaya Usha Padmini Sameta Surya Narayana Parabrahma Padaravindarpadamastu.
Namo Gurave Na Guruv Paramam Shishurasmi Guroho Matirasti Gurau Mama Pahi Guru Rama Rameti Guram Madhuraksharam Aruhya Kavita Shakha Vande Valmiki Kokilam Tato Yuddha Parishrantam Samare Chintaya Sthitam Ravanam Chagrato Drushtva Yuddhaya Samupasthitam Daivataishcha Samagamya Drashtumabhyagatoranam Upagamya Bravidramam Agastyo Bhagavan Rishihi Rama Rama Mahabaho Shruhyam Sanatanam Yena Sarva Narin Vatsa Samare सर्वशत्रुविनाशनम् जयावहं जपे नित्यम् अक्षय्यं परमं शिवम् सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्यं सर्वपापप्रणाशनम् चिन्ताशोकप्रशमनम् आयुर्वर्धनमुत्तमम् रश्मिमन्तं समुद्यन्तं देवासुरनमस्कृतम् पूजयस्व विवस्वन्तं भास्करं भुवनेश्वरम् सर्वदेवात्मको ह्येष तेजस्वी रश्मिभावनः एष देवासुरगणान् लोकान् पाति गभस्तिभिः एष ब्रह्मा च विष्णुश्च शिवः स्कन्दः प्रजापतिः महेन्द्रो धनदः कालो यमः सोमो ह्यपाम्बरिः पितरो वसवः साध्या ह्यश्विनौ मरुतो मनुः वायुर्वह्निः प्रजाः प्राणऋतुकर्ता प्रभाकरः आदित्यः सविता सूर्यः खगः पूषा गभस्तिमान् सुवर्णसदृशो भानुस्वर्णरेता दिवाकरः हरिदश्वः सहस्रार्चिः सप्तसप्तिर्मरीचिमान् तिमिरोन्मथनः शम्भुस्त्वष्टा मार्ताण्ड अंशुमान् हिरण्यगर्भः शिशिरस्तपनो भास्करो रविः अग्निगर्भोदिते पुत्रः शङ्खः शिशिरनाशनः व्योमनाथः समो भेदीर्व्यजः सामपारगः घनवृष्टिरपां मित्रो विन्ध्यवीथीप्लवङ्गमः आतपी मण्डली मृत्युः पिङ्गलः सर्वतापनः कविर्विश्वो महातेजा रक्तः सर्वभवोद्भवः नक्षत्रग्रहताराणामधिपो विश्वभावनः तेजसामपि तेजस्वी द्वादशात्मन्नमोऽस्तु ते नमः पूर्वाय गिरये पश्चिमायाद्रये नमः ज्योतिर्गणानां पतये दिनाधिपतये नमः जयाय जय भद्राय हर्यश्वाय नमो नमः नमो नमः सहस्रांशो आदित्याय नमो नमः नमः उग्राय वीराय सारंगाय नमो नमः नमः पद्मप्रबोधाय मार्ताण्डाय नमो नमः ब्रह्मेशानाच्युतेशाय सूर्यायादित्यवर्चसे भास्वते सर्वभक्षाय रौद्राय वपुषे नमः तमोघ्नाय हिमघ्नाय शत्रुघ्नायामितात्मने कृतघ्नघ्नाय देवाय ज्योतिषां पतये नमः तप्तचामीकराभाय वह्नये विश्वकर्मणे नमस्तमोभिनिघ्नाय रुचये लोकसाक्षिणे नाशयत्येष वैभूतं तदेव सृजति प्रभुः पायत्येष तपत्येष वर्षत्येष गभस्तिभिः एष सुप्तेषु जागर्ति भूतेषु परिनिष्ठितः एष एवाग्निहोत्रं च फलं चैवाग्निहोत्रिणाम् वेदाश्च क्रतवश्चैव क्रतूनां फलमेव च यानि कृत्यानि लोकेषु सर्व एष रविः प्रभुः येनमापत्सु कृच्छ्रेषु कान्तारेषु भयेषु च कीर्तयन् पुरुषः कश्चिन्नावसीदति राघव पूजयस्वैनमेकाग्रो देवदेवं जगत्पतिम् एतत् त्रिगुणितं जप्त्वा युद्धेषु विजयिष्यसि अस्मिन् क्षणे महाबाहो रावणं त्वं वधिष्यसि एवमुक्त्वा तदागस्त्यो जगाम चेथागतम् एतत् श्रुत्वा महातेजा नष्टशोको भवत्तदा धारयामास सुप्रीतो राघवः प्रयतात्मवान् आदित्यं प्रेक्ष्य जप्त्वा तु परं हर्षमाप्तवान् त्रिराचम्य शुचिर्भूत्वा धनुरादाय वीर्यवान् रावणं प्रेक्ष्य हृष्टात्मा युद्धाय समुपागमत् सर्वयत्नेन महता वधे तस्य धृतोऽभवत् अथरविरवदन्निरीक्ष्य रामं मुदितमनाः परमं प्रहृष्यमाणः निशिचरपति संशयं विदित्वा सुरगणमध्यगतो वचस्वरेति इत्यार्षे श्रीमद् रामायणे वाल्मीकिये आदिकाव्ये चतुर्विंशतिसहस्रिकायां संहितायां युद्धकाण्डे आदित्यहृदयं नाम सप्तोत्तरशततमः सर्गः। रथो यस्य दिव्यः कनकभूषितः समे भवतु सुप्रीतो पद्महस्तो दिवाकरः आदित्यः प्रथमं नाम द्वितीयं तु दिवाकरः तृतीयं भास्करः प्रोक्तम् चतुर्थं तु प्रभाकरः पञ्चमं तु सहस्रांशुः षष्ठं चैव त्रिलोचनः सप्तमं हरिदश्वश्च अष्टकं तु विभावसुः नवमं दिनकृत्प्रोक्तम् दशमं द्वादशात्मकम् एकादशं त्रयीमूर्तिः द्वादशं सूर्य एव च द्वादशादित्यनामानि प्रातः काले पठेन्नरः दुःखप्रणाशनं चैव सर्वदुःखं च नश्यति दुद्रोकुष्ठहरं चैव दारिद्र्यं हरते ध्रुवम् सर्वतीर्थप्रदं चैव सर्वकामप्रवर्धनम् यः पठेत् प्रातरुत्थाय भक्त्या नित्यमिदं नरः सौख्यमायुस्तथारोग्यं लभते मोक्षमेव च.
Just a reminder that the invitation is to stay with the silence, not get into selfie, let's meet the speaker, let's meet each other, let's be with Aditya, with Antaraditya. And if you have the capacity tomorrow morning, before you come here, if you can rise before Surya and have his Pratyaksha Darshanam before coming here, before you have his Tattva Darshanam, then it will make tomorrow that much more meaningful. So my request is, let's not quickly dissolve this and come back to samsara. Let's remain in that Shakha Dvipa with him. With this, handing it back to Anna.
Thank you, Vinay, for